Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. Good morning. Thanks for letting us be a part of your daily routine and riding shotgun with you wherever you're heading out to, or if you're just, getting ready in the bathroom or in the kitchen. We're glad to be a part of it. It's a great Tuesday morning in the nation's capital. Coming up at 7:35, Chloe Cole. She's going to join us in studio. She's in town for a rally tomorrow as the Supreme Court hears the case regarding transition procedures for minors. Chloe Cole herself was a minor who had her body forever altered by these barbaric procedures. She'll tell her story coming up in 30 minutes. 8:05, Brent Bozell Media Research Center. 8:35, Robbie Starbuck, who's led a one-man campaign against these woke corporations' DEI programs, and he's won every time. We'll tell you about that. It's Larry O'Connor. You're Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jules. Joining us right now is Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch. Hey, Tom, good morning. Thanks, as always, for joining us.
Hey, you're welcome. Good to be with you both.
Yesterday on the press gaggle, Air Force One, I think this was the most important exchange. Karine Jean-Pierre trying to clean up this mess of the Hunter Biden pardon. And listen to this exchange with the reporter.
He's saying his own Justice Department is broken, Karine.
He believes in the Justice Department. He believes that
After saying all that? He believes in the Justice Department?
This is his words. He said this. This is the president saying
He
this.
just said it's infected with politics.
I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making. I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfair prosecuted.
So how deep is the rot? How many selective prosecutions are there at the DOJ?
Yeah, there it is. He just said his own Justice Department is broken. He said it's infected with politics. How deep is the rot? How many selective prosecutions are there at the DOJ? Or is it just your son, Hunter, who never did anything wrong? Wow, Tom, this opens up a whole new line of conversation here, I would think. And you know a thing or two about how this Justice Department's been operating. What do you think?
We have a rule of law crisis here in Washington, D.C., and we have politicians in the White House, Democratic Party, who are all about power politics. And they'll say anything to get past whatever news cycle they need to get past in order to achieve their results. So you have, in this case, the President of the United States suggesting that his son was being targeted improperly by the agency he runs effectively as President of the United States. And we're supposed to believe that is a legitimate excuse for abusing his power to give pardons, to interfere in this process, the sentencing and the jailing potentially of his son, because his agency who did this is out of control.
Yeah.
And there you have the spokesman trying to kind of split the difference there, and no one buys it. And, the only selective prosecution was the fact that Joe wasn't selected for prosecution for the crimes involving him.
That's the remarkable thing here. The remarkable thing is that Hunter Biden clearly broke the law and clearly deserves a criminal investigation, and much more so than just the gun charge and the tax fraud questions that have been opened up here. But he uses this idea of a politically motivated Justice Department to give him a fig leaf for pardoning his son. He's found maybe one of the few prosecutions that isn't politically motivated. But meanwhile, he is right, though. There is something that needs to be fixed there. It's just that his son is not the poster child for it.
And they're complaining that, first of all, Hunter pled guilty to one of at least the charges related to taxes. So was that a politically motivated prosecution if he's pleading guilty to the facts? And then secondly, we've got this big issue of the broad nature of the pardon. I mean, forget about the specifics of these two charges, which were narrow and constructed to protect the Bidens. You've got this broad pardon, the likes of which has never been seen before. People point to the Richard Nixon pardon, and I'm not convinced it's the same in terms of being broad. But the idea that you get pardoned for everything you might have done for the last 10 years makes you think, well, what else did he do that he hasn't been prosecuted for?
Yeah.
So if I'm in the Justice Department and I'm run by an honest group of people, I'd be trying to figure out what went on, because the pardon doing that is dubious and maybe unconstitutional. And I think there needs to be we need to figure out what else happened. Was there something worse that went on beyond what we've been told about, at least through this prosecutorial process thus far?
Tom, do you? It's one curious thing people were talking about yesterday is the fact that there were no other pardons issued. Do you think, for instance, his brother Jim Biden or any other member of the family will receive a broad pardon like what Hunter Biden received?
Well, Jim needs to show up at the White House so he can take control of the White House and issue himself a pardon through his brother. We're all presuming Joe knows what he's doing when he signs on to this. I mean, what makes a lot of sense about the insanity of it is, well, Hunter did it, and he got his father, who doesn't have the mental capacity to make a judgment call one way or the other, sign on to something. And so, of course, it's inconsistent with what Joe Biden said. Of course, they were all lying to us when they were debating internally what to do about the pardon, while pretending he was committed to not doing it. What makes sense is that the family knows Joe's out of it, and they're abusing him and the American people by essentially hijacking the government to issue themselves pardons. So Hunter did it successfully, I would argue. And will the brother be smart enough to move up from Florida and control the White House for a day or two to get Joe to sign on?
That's a fascinating hypothesis. Well, NBC, some of the reports are that Jill Biden was heavily advocating. So maybe she's the one who's drafting these documents and just having Joe sign them. Tom Fitton's our guest from Judicial Watch. Can we pivot here to the full court press against Kash Patel? MSNBC is pretty much all in. It's all Kash all the time. They appear to be outraged that he could be the director of the FBI. What do you know about Kash Patel and what might happen here during his confirmation process and whether it's going to happen or not?
Oh, my friend Kash is just what the doctor ordered for the corrupted FBI. And he's exposed FBI corruption, deep state corruption. He's got a level of expertise in dealing with the senior most reaches of the deep state and intelligence establishment that makes him a perfect fit for the FBI that pretends it's some type of magical priesthood that can't be interfered with, by, the elected representatives of the people of the United States. And Kash Patel, I believe, if he went in there, is the person most likely to fix the FBI. I don't know if it can be fixed, but certainly to hold it accountable in the least. And his commitment to transparency, integrity, and government is second to none in this town, which is why, of course, this town hates the idea he might be FBI director.
How do you suggest the communications strategy going forward here? Because everything that Kash Patel or future Attorney General Pam Bondi might want to do to fix what is broken in the Justice Department and the FBI, it will all be framed as, they're using their power as for revenge purposes against Trump's enemies. I mean, every single move, that will be the narrative. What's the best way to combat that, or what's the best way to push back? Or should they just not care and just do the right thing, regardless of what people will say?
Well, they were elected to clean house, and they got a clean house. And I kind of have a different view than others may have on this. I think President Trump should take personal ownership of this issue and appoint special counsels, attorneys, and prosecutors personally who report to him in the White House. Justice Department should be investigating the Justice Department. The FBI probably can't be investigating the FBI. We need outside parties doing it. And the president needs to have an independent group that go in and figure out what went on. Doesn't mean that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel don't have key roles to play in doing their jobs under the law. But the president constitutionally has got to make sure those agencies have been operating fairly. They haven't been operating fairly, but hold it fully accountable. And in terms of prosecutions and serious independent investigations, I mean, the Justice Department, if, for instance, if he wants to continue the Biden investigations, part of that investigation is the cover-up by the Justice Department and the FBI. So can those agencies investigate themselves? I don't think they can.
Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch, regardless of how this process moves forward and what work is done at the FBI and the DOJ at the behest of the new president and on behalf of the American people, Tom Fitton's work at Judicial Watch will continue to be vitally important. Tom, always good to talk to you, sir.
Transparency would be great. Thank you.
Transparency. Let's start there. It's 7:17. We got to get
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Yeah, we got to get a song from part one of Wicked here to get people juiced up that we're going to talk about Wicked because this is in Act 2. I haven't seen it still, though. You've seen it.
I did. I
You've
went
seen it.
last week. The day after Thanksgiving, I think I took
And
my
you
son.
took my advice, and you weren't afraid of because the hype and the build-up in the interviews that these two actresses are doing
No,
are
I was completely
awful.
turned off. In fact, I didn't think I should take my kids because they are so bonkers. These are the two main actresses in the movie. They're so crazy in their interviews, this sort of press tour that they've been on. They've been crying. They've been talking about how this is some sort of anthem for the gay community. That this movie is very gay. You know, they
It's not.
It's not. It's just it's a very entertaining
All right.
sort of fantasy
So
film.
you took your son.
Yes, he loved it.
Well, here's my word. Was he triggered? Did you prepare him ahead of time not to be triggered by the discrimination in it? Did you
I did not.
against green-skinned people?
No, I did not.
So there's
Gosh,
a big
how awful of me.
big concern here that because of this movie, there's going to be hate crimes, I guess, against green-skinned people. I'm not joking.
Hilariously, the British Board of Film Classification
Oh, my God.
has issued a trigger warning on Wicked because of potential discrimination against green-skinned women
What?
and persecution of talking animals. The warning, issued on their website, states a green-skinned woman is mocked, bullied, and humiliated because of her skin colour. A green-skinned woman! There is no such thing as a green-skinned woman in the real world. Even Ernest knows there are no green-skinned women. Right, Ernest? Yes?
No, I agree.
Thank you. No, I'll come back to you, Ernest. I'll come back to you. Just wanted to get clarification. There are no green-skinned women in the world.
We did need to hear that rant in particular in a British accent.
Yes, it was very good. Very good.
Oh, no. It's like a skit from Monty Python.
You know, this is a choice. Like, being this absurd and issuing a warning to green-skinned people. Someone made a choice that is a legitimate warning that needs to go out.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, the talking animals too.
Oh, yeah,
there
yeah.
are depictions in the movie of terrible. And by the way, this is what's really important, and everyone's taking from this movie whatever allegories they want to take. And it's a gay pride movie. It's got queer anthems. It's about racial discrimination.
Right.
You want to know what I take from it? This is what happens with the tyranny of big government thought control. Every single persecution, every single discrimination, it's all perpetrated by the government, by the authoritarian wizard that everybody puts their trust in. And they assume the wizard is all wise and knows when the wizard doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but he's trying to maintain control by pitting people against each other.
This is a commentary on the administrative state.
Yes, it is. 100% it is, but they're all trying to get something else out of it. The solution is always individuals and our freedom and our liberty and our creativity. And we know better than those who are ruling us right now. And the only way the people in the ruling class stay in power is by continuing to get us to fight with each other. That's really what Wicked is all about, if you boil it down. But no, we need to be trigger warned about discrimination against green-skinned people.
Although I will
Why do we
say, I will say, wasn't this sort of supported by the green lady in the movie? In some of the interviews?
Of course, because the
She's
actors.
crazy.
So here's the thing, because you come from the world of politics and advocacy and
But you come
media.
from theater. Yes.
I've worked in entertainment. Here's what everybody keeps missing about all these women, Ariana Grande and Ms. Enviro, who are promoting this movie. Actresses, for the most part,
Are nuts.
are stupid. They're dumb
That's
people.
why they read off scripts.
They don't know what
Yes.
They don't know what the movie is about. They know what their songs are. They know, and and if the director can get a great performance out of them by saying, this is really about being queer. I just want you to know this is really about being gay. It's about being lesbian. It's about you two actually
A
have
greater meaning.
all this sexual
Yes.
tension and that. If the director can get a great performance out of them by creating this falsehood, he's going to do
Fair
that.
enough.
because they're making a movie.
Sure.
But so yes, you're right. The actors have promoted this.
They're
They've
nuts.
supported it. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. But Piers Morgan does.
Have to endure this
I
crap.
think, to be honest, I'm such a cynic. First of all, I also hate musicals. There's not enough money you could pay me to go and watch that film. But also, I think I'm the cynic in me is saying this is a PR move. This is saying, slap something ridiculous on it so that the Daily Mail will pick it up, which it has, by the way. One of the most read newspapers in the country has picked it up. I don't think anyone's going to mistake the discrimination of green-skinned people, one, because it doesn't exist. I mean, why don't they draw parallels with, I don't know, yellow-skinned people with jaundice? It's ridiculous. They're doing this as a PR stunt.
And the
no one is going to
persecution
be offended by this.
I don't understand how this PR helps by saying, that there's a trigger warning
Right.
for discrimination.
We have said that, and I have talked to people who are like, I'm not going to go see that. That's going to be some woke travesty.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is good. You loved it. People should see it.
People now look. There are people on the right who are appalled by this isn't canon. That this isn't like, with the original book, Wizard of Oz.
Well, because
right?
that's the whole
know.
point.
I'm just saying
It's
that
not
this
meant
is
to be.
this is something that people. So you have to sort of act like you're seeing a whole nother movie.
It's like fan fiction.
Yes.
It's like it
Yes.
takes the characters and then it
Exactly.
tells us sort of a flipped upside down
The
story
music
about
is
it.
great. I do like musicals.
It's
They're
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's 7:24.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36 now in your nation's capital, the most powerful city in the world. I mean, if you don't count Quebec, Canada, which is obviously, coming up at 8:05, Brent Bozell Media Research Center, and 8:35, Robbie Starbug, who has been driving a one-man campaign against DEI programs and corporations. We'll talk about his successes. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
And joining us in studio is a real heroine. We've been saying we got all these great people joining us today. Robbie Starbug and Tom Fitton was just with us. But you're smiling, but it's true. You are a bit of a hero. It's Chloe Cole. You've sort of, and I hate to define somebody down to this one issue, but you're an activist. You are speaking out not just for yourself and your experience, but for all the other children who are facing this and their parents, by the way. You've become, forgive me, the face of the detransition movement to move away from this bizarre decade-old path we've been on in allowing children to be mutilated, frankly, chemically or surgically, right?
Yes, I mean, after everything that I've been through with this issue and how it's affected me and my family and several friends of mine, I feel like I have a responsibility to take all of the painful, negative experiences that I've been through and to turn it into strength, into something better so that nobody else has to go through the same thing. No other child, no other parent is subject to what I went through as a family.
I feel like we're so ingrained in this topic and we've been talking about for so many years. Can you just remind people, if they don't recognize your name, if they don't know briefly what your experience was, at what age did all of this begin?
So I am a detransitioner, meaning that I'm somebody who went through the process first of a gender transition, both medically and socially, and then came back out of it and started living again under identity as a member of my birth sex. And
so you were born a girl,
yes.
and at some age through
I was about 12 when I started identifying as a male. And I went through the entire process, both of the transition and starting the detransition process, while I was still under the age of 18. I was put on the first treatments when I was 13, starting with a drug called Lupron, which has previously been used to castrate sex offenders and as a cancer drug to suppress my puberty, and then on weekly injections of testosterone to masculinize my body. And at 15 years old was when I underwent my first and my only surgery during this time. I had a radical double mastectomy to surgically remove my completely healthy breasts. Yeah. And it took less than a year, and it wasn't until the surgery that I realized, like, this is all a massive mistake. I never should have been going through this. Like, I want to have children one day. I want to become a mother. I want to become a wife. And this is taking away potentially my ability to do that. But also none of this is actually turning me into a young man. It's just taking away function and body parts away from my body. And it's okay for me to perhaps be more tomboyish as a girl. I don't have to change myself. I don't have to change this fundamental part of who I am in order to be my real self.
Talk to us a little bit about, you had the support of the medical community, correct?
If not encouragement.
Right. I mean, throughout pretty much every step of the way, I was only really given support in this identity and in this decision by the doctors I had. Now, I had one doctor who did push back out of concern for, I think he cited like brain development or something. But other than that, he said, well, you can still block your puberty. We'll see where you're at in about a year's time. Like a year makes enough of a difference in a child's development to be able to make a decision that will disfigure and potentially sterilize them for life.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I was just immediately referred out again to a doctor who would put me on hormones at 13.
And this was also, you've talked a lot about your parents' role in this and how they were also sort of told, sort of fed the lie about suicide and how this is the only path for you.
Right. Parents are told you can either have a living boy, even though you gave birth to a girl, or you can have a dead daughter.
Right.
That's what doctors tell them.
I mean, it's absolutely horrific. I am absolutely an advocate for the parents who are involved in this because most of them are not malicious. They're having this lie shoved down their throat that this is going to be life or death for their child, that they have no other choice, and that this kid who they birthed, who they raised, who they know best, they don't actually know them at all. There's something that they're completely the opposite of the way that they were made, and they're made so wrong that they have to be medicated. And for a parent to hear this about their own daughter, their own son, it crushes your heart. I can't imagine what my mom and dad went through with me.
We're speaking with Chloe Cole, and she's in town, by the way, because tomorrow there is a rally on the steps of the Supreme Court. It's right at the Supreme Court building, right?
Yes.
It's called Stop the Harm, Let Kids Grow. It's because the Supreme Court is hearing arguments over a law that was passed in Tennessee that prohibits these kind of procedures that you underwent, right?
Yes. So we're rallying for the oral arguments of the U.S. versus Discrimination case. And so it's about Tennessee's law,
right,
which has banned the use of these cross-sex experimentation treatments in children, determining whether it's constitutional or not, which I think is I think it's insane. First, that we're even discussing whether it's ethical to sterilize confused children, and second, whether it's constitutional to do that or not. Because I mean, you have to remember that the historical lens that the Constitution was written in. The founding fathers did not write it in mind with people using it to excuse the institutional abuse of children.
Yeah. The medical profession will say government should stay out of this. This is about private medical concern between parents, I guess, in this case, because children obviously can't get this. A child can't consent to this without their parents. We're the professionals. You stay out of this because there's a full and responsible screening process. This is all done in a very scientific way. You've been through this. Is that true?
No. I mean, an individual's rights end where they infringe upon another's. The left has turned this into, and they've tried to twist this into an issue of human rights, of children's rights, of parents' rights. Well, parents already do not have the right to abuse their own children. Obviously, this is why we have child protective services.
Right. Yep.
And children do not have a full set of rights like adults do. This is making the assumption that children have full autonomy over themselves and their bodies, but they don't have the experiential or developmental maturity to be able to make a decision that will so broadly affect the rest of their life. I mean, literally, it's going to affect every single part of puberty, of their development into adulthood.
I'm just sorry that at the Supreme Court it's only lawyers who get to talk, because I think if you were able to go up there in front of those 9 justices and tell your story, that would be all they need to hear.
I do wish I were able to testify, but I was able to submit an amicus brief.
Oh, great.
Good,
all right,
good.
we're going to continue with Chloe Cole here. She's in studio. There's more questions that we have on behalf of parents and children, and also about this rally tomorrow. So keep it right here. We got a couple of radio things we got to do.
Later this morning in the Chris Plant Show, is Joe Biden's lie not a lie because the Democrats and the media say so? 9 a.m. on WMAL.
It's 7:49, and if you're like us, you can't get enough of Chloe Cole, her story, her activism, her passion. And if you'd like more, by the way, you could show up on the steps of the Supreme Court tomorrow. She'll be speaking there as well. By the way, you said in your post on X that this is such a great opportunity. You're going to be speaking to this rally. It's at what time does it start tomorrow morning at the Supreme Court?
Starts at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then you said, what an opportunity. I'm only 20. I had no idea you're only 20. You can't even have a glass of wine while you're in town. That's really sad. Not that that's the only thing. So it's incredible what you're able to do. And,
Thank you.
but I want to, I vividly remember when you first started speaking out and you started telling your story and the kind of attacks you received from this. I mean, these are disturbed individuals. I'm not talking about the people who are transgender, although some of them are disturbed as well. I'm talking about the activists who pretend to speak in their name. They were so vicious to you. In fact, there's still people out there who think you're lying about this whole thing, that you've made this whole thing up.
Like I don't have a whole court case.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Sure, but they did. I mean, were you expecting that? I mean, I know it's hard for you to come out personally and tell this story anyway because you have to relive it all. But then to add that extra vicious attack.
Yes, I mean, it's not always easy, but it's so worth it. But yes, I mean, I going into this, I actually expected to receive an aggressive response like that and probably some violence because from the very beginning of the time that I stopped my transition, I had gotten a very aggressive response from just the transgender community alone. Like these people who supported me all the way through, and especially after I had surgery, to lose that support so suddenly was so devastating at that time. And people would, at best, they would like silently distance themselves from me or tell me that they were uncomfortable with me just talking about like my pain and my regret. And at worst, like they would just go out of their way to harass me, to tell me these awful things like, this is all your fault. You have only yourself to blame. It doesn't matter that you were a kid. Like, you're the one who said yes. This would never have happened if you didn't just do that. And people would say really cruel things to me like, well, you're never going to be a beautiful woman again. Like, why try to go back? You look so much better as a boy. Just trying to break me down just for the sole fact that I was grieving. That this didn't work for me, that I no longer was a part of this community. But what I wasn't expecting was that I would receive so much kindness and love and support along the way.
Yeah. And that's what we have for you.
We're all moms and dads. We see you as our kid right now.
Yeah,
I find that this issue hits especially hard with parents, regardless of whether they're dealing with this.
And that's kind of the last question that I have is what advice do you give to parents who are influence? Look, I think things have gotten better. I think there's more information out there. There's more reason for parents to doubt because of you and others. But what would your advice be to parents who are facing a child who they love and they care about, but is facing this sort of emotional and mental health issue?
Well, to any parent who has any minor children, especially young children, whether or not you're already dealing with this, you're going to have to inoculate your child because they're going to find out about this, whether or not you want them to. They're going to find out about it through video game communities that they're playing in, through their school, through the curriculum, through potentially a teacher introducing this to them, or through their friends, or through social media.
Around here, the school systems are implementing conversations about this stuff in elementary school.
Horrible.
So,
So you have to have age-appropriate conversations with them about how there are people out there who are going to try to confuse them, give them the confusing messages about who they are, about who other people are, how things like as basic as sex, male and female work, and how to deal with that.
Great advice.
And for parents who are currently dealing with this for their child, well, it's important to first remember not to affirm this in any way. Do not affirm the preferred name or pronouns or call them by the opposite sex or whatever they identify as, because in doing so, you're adding to their confusion.
Yes.
And you're ceding ground to this idea that they have that they were made wrong and that they have to change this beautiful part of the way that they were made. And no child deserves to believe that. Nobody deserves to believe that about themselves. And you have to respond to them in a very controlled manner. Do not get upset about them because do not get upset. Do not push them away in any manner because they're looking there. This is from the child. They're coming out to you as a member of the opposite sex and whatnot. They're actually trying to push for boundaries. They're trying to get a reaction out of you. treat them the same as you always have.
Lovingly.
Perhaps, yes,
yeah.
lovingly.
Yeah.
Be attentive to them. And also, don't let this just occupy all of your time with them. And for the parents who have been led to believe that this is right for your child, that this is the only option that you have, it's not. I'm sorry that you've been led astray by medical professionals who are supposed to be helping you and, of course, your child through this time, and that they are not doing so. But they are lying to you. This has not been a proven treatment. This is not going to save your child's life. You can give your child the chance to just grow up with their body fully intact and learn how to love themselves as they are. And going through puberty is not easy. It's not easy to grow up. It's not easy to deal with the changes that are happening to your body and socially and whatnot during adolescence. But everybody goes through that. It's okay to allow your child to just go through this time of distress and just give them the guidance to get through it.
Listen, more
You
wisdom.
know your child best.
More wisdom there than the entire medical community over the last a couple of decades on this issue, coming from Chloe Cole. And she should know she's been through it. Her rally is tomorrow starting at 8 a.m., steps of the Supreme Court as they hear the arguments in this very important case. Stop the harm, let kids grow. We'll tweet it out on our social media. Chloe Cole, you are a beautiful woman, and you're going to make a great wife and a great mom. And your parents are very lucky to have you as their daughter.
Thank you so much. That's very kind.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.